Hello and welcome to Brockley News, Radio Brockley's weekly show with news, interviews and information, including updates on all you need to know about what's happening in and about the hospital. I'm Sophie Horrocks. Coming up tonight, we hear from Sharon Keaney from the Disability Foundation. She'll be talking to us about hypnotherapy and how it can benefit patients here at the RNOH. Then, at 7:30 p.m, it's your chance to win some Radio Brockley goodies without leaving your bed on Bedside Bingo with Neil Boyd. Then at 8 o'clock, it's all your choice of tunes on the Sunday Request Show with Keith Reeve. So stay tuned to London's longest-running hospital radio station and still London's official #1 hospital radio station, Radio Brockley. Sharon Keaney is a hypnotherapist working for the Disability Foundation, a charity that provides complimentary therapy services to patients, staff and visitors. Let's join our reporter, Sue Weston.
I'm in the studio today with Sharon Keaney from the Disability Foundation, and we're going to talk a bit about hypnotherapy and how it can help you. But before we do that, would you just explain to us a bit about the work that the Disability Foundation does for people?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the TDF's been running for 20 years this year, actually, and it's based within the hospital. It helps predominantly patients, patient family members, and obviously staff of the hospital with, it offers complementary therapy. So there aren't many charities out there actually doing that. I think they're probably one of very few in the whole UK, actually. So they do some great work. So they offer everything from nutrition advice to counselling, hypnotherapy, which is what I do, but you've also got things like Reiki, acupuncture, massage, so a whole host of complementary therapies, and they do some great work, yeah.
And is there a membership that has to be paid? Or?
Yeah, so there's an annual membership, and then you make a donation to the charity as and when you book in. So I think the annual membership is £10-20. Yeah, so there's an annual membership, but then you're free to kind of use the services as and when after that, and you just make a small donation.
That's brilliant. It's great to put it out there for people that really need the help.
Yeah, I had no idea it was there, and if I had known, then I'm sure I would have been up there sooner. But no, they do really, really good work, and we see some really, really nice, really cool clients. So yeah, it's very good.
That's great. And so, in terms of hypnotherapy,
yeah,
I'm sure people that are listening to this would really like to know a bit more about what hypnotherapy actually is.
Yeah, so hypnotherapy is linked to mindfulness quite a lot. I guess mindfulness is much more kind of, relaxing yourself, kind of zoning in or dialing in with yourself, and taking some time. Whereas hypnotherapy would be more like you want to work on a specific issue with someone, and we do that together by, working on the mind, and that has huge benefits both in terms of your thoughts and how you feel about yourself, but it can actually help with ailments and pains and aches and stuff as well. So a huge range of applications with hypnotherapy.
And I think it's really good to explain how does it make you feel? Is it, lots of people I'm sure are listening thinking, you're
going to make them dance like a chicken.
Yeah, and not to be out of control, and they want to be in control. So
yeah, no, hypnotherapy is very different from stage hypnosis. I mean, we use hypnosis within it, but the clue's in the title, it's hypnotherapy. So we work with you on an issue which you want to work on. I'm not in control of you in any way, shape or form. It's your session. It will go how you want it to go. If you heard a fire alarm in the room or anything you're going to hear it. We're going to get you out of there. People come out of hypnosis as well. People have this fear that, will I come out? Will I be all right driving home? Absolutely. It's therapeutic, and it's great. It's a bit like as well, a lot of people say, oh, you're going to put me to sleep. I find that I don't really put people to sleep or put them into a trance. I'm actually taking them out of a trance that they may already be in. But in relation to that sleep state as well, you're not really putting a person to sleep, you're just getting them to relax. We get them to close their eyes, just because a lot of what goes into your brain is, what's going on around you. So by closing the eyes, it just allows you to focus more on the pictures in your mind and also the words that we're speaking. And a lot of people find it's a bit like, when you're kind of that nice bit when you're kind of just dozing off before you go to sleep. So they kind of drift in and drift out. And sometimes they'll hear every word. Sometimes they won't remember anything. But I often find that their brain will naturally pick up on and detect the parts that are important to them. So they'll remember certain things that are important to them in their session. So.
And when you say that, you're getting them out of a trance they're in, would you explain to me a bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, so if you listen to people's language, a lot of people are walking around, they'll get up on a Monday morning and go, oh, this commute is killing me, or, I can't bear with this anymore. And I don't think they actually connect with how important that kind of language is on your body, and there's definite, body-mind connection. So if you're going around all day saying, oh, this is killing me, I don't have the energy for this, chances are you're not going to have the greatest day. But if you use more positive language, like, this job is challenging, but I love having a job, or, my kids are driving me crazy, but actually I love having the kids. That's what they're about. They're having fun. And, you find a way to kind of use better language. It can really have an impact on your life and your whole well-being.
It can. I mean, in my experience, you find even when you're writing an email, to think really carefully about the positive things that you say and the negative things that you say, because it really has an impact on the person reading it too. And
I do think as well, people are very keen to go out there and, collaborate with other people, be it in business or, build relationships or build friendships. But the one thing that they usually forget is that kind of collaboration with your own mind. And if you're giving it unclear communication, like, oh, I can't do this, your brain naturally, I think there's a theory out there that your brain is designed to make you happy. I disagree with that entirely. Your brain doesn't care if you're happy or not. Your brain's there to make you survive, and it will always do what it can to get you away from pain and towards pleasure. And if I'm going to the gym and I'm like, oh, I hate sit-ups, so it's cold, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, chances are I'm not going to be going to the gym in 6 weeks' time. I'll give it up. Whereas if you're getting up and, you're being a bit more kind of an athlete in approach and kind of going, okay, it is cold, but, I want to get my gold medal, or, I want to lose that 5 pounds, or, and you make that better connection with your brain and a better collaboration with yourself, your life can be completely different.
People that are listening to us now as well will be really interested in the process that goes on with hypnotherapy. So would you like to explain a bit about what would actually happen if somebody came to see you?
Yeah, sure. So what happens in my private practice and in my practice there, I would always walk someone through the actual process and how it would start. At the charity specifically, we probably wouldn't have met. So we probably spend the first 15 minutes talking about, what issue you want to work on, kind of a bit about your background, not so we can dwell on it or analyse it. That's not really what I do. So we would just find out more about each other, get comfortable with working each other, and then I just kind of relax you into it, explain to you what I'm going to do. So that would be, it's normally a closed eyes process. Me personally, I normally lead people down some steps, or we kind of have a kind of induction into hypnosis. And normally my sessions at the charity, I'll just speak for half an hour, 45 minutes. And it will be designed specifically for you. So really you just have to listen. There's other things I use as well. So look, I've trained in RTT, which is another form of therapy, but it's based on hypnotherapy and NLP and CBT. So that would be more in-depth stuff. But a general hypnotherapy session in relation to something I specialise in for anxiety, probably looking at an hour, 15-minute conversation, make sure we're comfortable with each other, and then you just lie back and relax, really.
Sounds absolutely wonderful.
It is.
And how many
quite
sessions? Yes. And how many sessions do you think a person would need to come to see you?
It really depends on the issue. I find that most people are, we've got to what we need to get to in 1 to 3 sessions. That's my standard, really. So
it's quite quick then.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think as well, people forget that the brain learns really quickly. If I see a child and they've got a fear of dogs, they probably found that out in one instant where they've been chased by a dog or something's happened in relation to a dog. It's not something you learn over the space of 6 months, a year. So they understand that things like that can happen quickly, and your brain will want to naturally take you away from it, but they forget that you can actually make positive change really quickly as well. People believe it's got to be complicated, it's got to be hard, it's going to take weeks or months to sort this out. No, it really doesn't. It can be done really quickly. So yeah.
Great, that's really good. So if they wanted to come and see you through TDF, or the Disability Foundation, how would they go about doing that?
Well, they can call the guys or they can email the reception desk. If you go to www.tdf.org.uk, they've got all the information on there, information about hypnotherapy, and you can just literally call up and book a slot. I'm personally there on Saturday mornings between 10 and 1, and there's another colleague, Helen, she's there on Mondays. I've got to be honest, I'm not sure on her times, but she's there on Mondays. So there is a hypnotherapist in the building on a Monday and a Saturday, so you should come down.
That's great. That's great. And so the actual hypnotherapy that you do, is there a basis of it that you use? I think you were talking about the four rules of the mind.
Yeah, so, in talking in a more general sense, if you talk about the brain per se, there's 4 rules of the mind as I see it. And, number 1 is it always does what it really thinks you want it to do. Number 2 would be it will always try to move you away from pain and towards pleasure. Number 3, it responds to the words and pictures that are in your head. And number 4, it really loves what's familiar and it's not so great with what's not familiar. So if you look at those 4 things, if you look at, it always does what you think you want it to do. If you're all day long saying, oh, I just want to stay at home in bed, like, that's what your brain thinks it wants you to do. And there will be instances where, you've got to go and do a meeting or you've got to go and do a speech, but, you just don't want to move, or you get sick, or you got a sore throat. If you have to be specific with your brain, it's not very good at unfamiliar or, vague terms. You must be specific. So another one, second, when it says to try and move you away from pain and towards pleasure. If I associate a huge amount of pain with going to the gym, I'm not going to go. But if I associate a huge amount of pleasure with sitting at home and having chocolate cake while I'm watching Netflix, guess what? Guess which one I'm going to choose. So people then start to talk about willpower and the importance of willpower. Willpower lasts only, I think, for so long. If you can associate pleasure with going to the gym, and I'm not saying pain towards chocolate cake, we all like a bit on occasion, but if you're overweight and you're trying to go in a certain direction, but you're not getting what you want because of something else, I think you've got to look at that collaboration with your brain, and you've got to say, okay, I can have chocolate cake in 6 months' time or a year's time when I've done this, but for now, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to be, this is how I'm moving forward. Then it takes things away. Oh, and another trick as well, if someone offers you chocolate cake and you don't want it, I always tell people, say no thank you. Not no, that kind of blunt, like no, like deprivation. If you say no thank you, it's more of a choice. You've made a choice to say no, and you can appreciate it a bit more. And you can have it when you've lost it.
Quite right too.
And still to come on Radio Brockley this evening at 7:30 p.m, it's your chance to win Radio Brockley goodies with our bedside bingo. And at 8, your choice of tunes on our regular Sunday request show with Keith Reeve. But let's go back and join Sue and Sharon for part 2 of our interview on hypnotherapy.
So at TDF, I know you have massage therapy and many other therapies. And what would be the difference coming to see a hypnotherapist like yourself, Sharon?
Well, it's quite interesting, actually. I spoke to we had a Christmas party, and it was the first time I probably got to meet a lot of the guys, and we got speaking at the Christmas party, and they were like, oh, you do hypnotherapy? And they said, oh, it's really interesting, because they often find themselves, they didn't have someone to maybe refer to hypnotherapy or to something more mind related, because a lot of them were saying, sometimes the issue's not in the tissue. So they work very much on the kind of tissue aspect. And I'm not saying, if you come up to me and you say, oh yeah, I've got this pain, I can help you with hypnotherapy, but if your leg's broken, I'm not the person to see. At the same time, if you're going repeatedly for these massages and you've got tension in your shoulders, and you're not thinking positively, and maybe not working as much as you'd like to, or whatever else, and you've got yourself, you've got these negative thoughts in your head, and I can't do this and I can't do that, and everything's kind of a bit, if you want to say, down as opposed to up, then I would say think about that collaboration with the mind, which we were talking about. And if you want to find out more, engage with a hypnotherapist. If you came to see me and we had a 15-minute conversation and you went, do you know what, I get what you're saying, but I don't want to, that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to be offended by that. I'm actually would praise you for doing that, because I think it's good that you kind of got outside your comfort zone and tried something new. You know, at the same token, if you go in and you go through a session, you go, oh, do you know what, that was actually all right. And I find that's what I get a lot at the TDF. You know, people who maybe haven't been open to hypnotherapy, don't really know anything about it, or have got a weird idea of what it is. And they kind of come, we have our initial chat, we ease into it, we do our kind of first session, and they go, wow, that was actually really relaxing, and I got a lot more from it than I thought. So I guess don't be scared by it. Don't wait to be referred for it, because a lot of people aren't aware of the applications of it. But also, you know, again, like we were saying, you know, dial in with yourself. What's actually going on? You know, listen to the words that you're actually saying, as opposed to just having everything on, you know, automatic.
We're talking about changing the way we speak to ourselves and think about certain situations, scenarios of going to the gym and eating chocolate cake. Is there a good way of teaching ourselves how to do that?
I guess the first thing is kind of recognising it. I think a lot of people don't, maybe, like we were saying, you know, I'm keen to get into relationships with people or in business, but they forget about the relationship with themselves. And I think if you highlight that as the first thing, like, you know, if I'm after something and I'm not getting it, let's have a look at what I'm doing before anything else. And I know from my own journey, and this is how I got into hypnotherapy, like, you know, a couple of years ago I was a completely different person. I was close to 30 stone, I smoked, I drank, I did all sorts of stuff which 90% of the population is doing, but I don't do anymore. And I think, you know, sometimes pain becomes people's driver. So you'll normally have people saying, oh, this, you know, this shocking thing happened and it forced me to change. But it doesn't actually have to be that difficult. I think if you just, you know, sometimes literally just take 5 minutes and have a conversation with yourself. And what I found, and this, you know, it's not something I was taught, it's just something I did myself. But when I found I wasn't getting what I wanted, I actually recorded myself sometimes and kind of like literally verbalised what I was saying in my head, but recorded it. And when you listen to it back, you kind of go, but that's not true, or who told me that? And you don't realise how much stuff is kind of caught in your brain. And I think when you get it out and you listen back to it, or you get it down on paper, it can actually really make you question what's going on. You know, and I've got a friend who's a scientist, and I remember when I used to do this, and I used to be going on, but I don't know. And he was like, you're forgetting one thing. You need to be more scientific about it, because in science world, I don't know means do research here. So if you're not getting what you want, but you've been trying and you're doing all this stuff, and you know, I've signed up to 5 gyms, you know, whatever it is, maybe verbalise it, maybe record yourself on, you know, on a smartphone and play it back to yourself and listen to it with an objective mind. And if that was a friend, you know, what would you say to them, or what would you advise them? You know, and get around good people, get around people who, you know, have made changes or have done things that you want to do, and don't be afraid to ask questions. I remember when I lost a huge amount of weight, and I was like, I want to go and I do sports, and I want to go and do running and all of this stuff. And I remember a lot of the training for the running I was doing on my own, and I felt really good about doing it. But the first race I came to do, I completely freaked out, like at the start line, because I felt like I didn't belong, and I was almost looking back at old stuff. And I was like, okay, that's got to change, because I think I'd got into the habit by then. So I started joining a running club, and actually when you stand in front of people who are runners and they've done it, the experience that they have, the knowledge that they give you, you learn 10 times quicker. And you get the social side, and you don't get this kind of like imposter syndrome that some people talk about. So get yourself around people that are doing what you want to do. You know, have a serious conversation with yourself, and literally write things down and question what you're actually saying. And I think if you can start there, then yeah, you probably find your life will change.
That's fantastic, and it's great that you've turned your life around how you have, and now you're helping other people to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
So what issues would you say that would, you know, somebody listening now might be thinking, oh, well, I've never thought of hypnotherapy before, but I've got this issue. I mean, what kind of things do you think you could help with?
Oh God, there's a whole host. How long have you got? I would say, based on what the work I do in the charity, I see a lot of people with anxiety, and people maybe don't realise that hypnotherapy could help with that. A lot of people with, you know, pains and aches, unexplained pains and aches, as well as things like fibromyalgia, stuff like that. Hypnotherapy can definitely help there. You know, I wouldn't say use anything in like isolation. we all kind of work together, and there'd be lots of things we could recommend around it. But don't forget how important the brain is. Don't forget how important it is to kind of have that connection with yourself. So anxiety, pains and aches, weight loss is a big one, smoking's a big one, reducing alcohol. I haven't met too many people who want to give it up completely, but reducing the amount of alcohol. Sugar intake is a big one I see at the moment as well. Lots of people kind of wanting to cut down their sugar and the importance around that. But also not just kind of like taking away in the negative stuff. There's good stuff too, like, getting better at public speaking, getting better at exams. If you've got exams coming up, you've got a driving test coming up, stuff like that. It can help with the good stuff too. Dating, if you're single out there as well, it can help with that. It really can help pretty much anything. Your brain's used in everything you do. It's even active when you're sleeping, so dial into it, I say.
So it really helps to train the brain then.
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
Really helps.
Yeah.
If somebody came to you with two completely different scenarios, one issue where they wanted to give up smoking, and one when they felt completely inconfident in their lives, how would you deal with that situation? Would you do it in separate sessions, or how would that?
So if I'm completely honest, I like to deal with them in separate sessions. I find, like we were saying, the brain likes dealing with things that are specific. And I'd refer it back to a story I heard about Steve Jobs. So there's a guy in the States that I met ages ago, and he used to be one of the marketing guys for Apple years and years ago, before they even had phones. And Steve Jobs, they had 30 seconds to sum up in an advert, all the functionality of the new computer that they were bringing out. And the guys in the marketing team were like, look, you're putting too much in the advert. If we put too much in the advert, people aren't going to catch on to what the actual point is. So Steve Jobs was like, no, I want to deal with it all. It's all going in. You've got to find a way to get it in. So the guy said, look, I'm going to stop you there. And he took like a piece of paper and he scrunched it up into like a ball, and he threw it at Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs caught it. So that was fine. And they put the ball down, but then he took 4 other bits of paper, screwed them up into 5 balls now, and threw them at Steve Jobs, and he didn't catch one. So my interpretation when you're working on the brain is the same. If you've got 10 issues, we'll get to them. But if I go in and I start trying to tackle all 10 issues in one session, your brain is naturally going to try and snap onto one that is most important to you. Now, you might come in and think in your mind, smoking is my number one, and that's what I want to get rid of, but I've got these other things. If I start working on the 10 issues, you might come out and go, well, I cut down my sugar intake, but I'm still smoking. So I can't guarantee which one your brain would pick up on immediately. So I prefer to deal with them one by one. Plus, I also find that actually if people get over something like anxiety, or they lose weight, or it can get rid of some of the other things that they're coming in about. So personally, and this is just my view, but I tackle it one by one.
And we spoke about sort of positive thinking and changing the way we talk to ourselves. And would you like to just tell our listeners a little bit more about how?
Yes, I guess we can have a bit of a recap. So I was talking about the 4 rules of the mind before. So even if you never have hypnotherapy, there's certain things that I think would apply to everybody, and everybody would benefit from doing. So, always tell your mind what you want, and be specific, and use positive language. It's killing me, I can't bear it, is going to send you in one direction, versus I want to do this, I love what it's giving me. Yeah, my kids, they're a challenge, but God, they're amazing kids, and I'm so grateful for having them. It's completely different language, and has a completely different effect on your body and on your thinking and on your life. Number 2 would be, always link pleasure to what you're doing that supports you. And if you're going to link pain to anything, link it to the stuff that's trapping you and not sending you in the direction you want. Remember, your mind only responds to the words and pictures in your head, so you might as well make them good ones. And also, number 4 would be, if it's negative and familiar, make it unfamiliar. Do whatever you have to do to make it unfamiliar, and always work towards making what's positive and unfamiliar familiar. You might not be able to run a marathon today, but effectively a marathon is just 1 mile 23 times. You can do that. I know I keep coming back to sports analogies, but and I guess the final one, even if you never have hypnosis or you don't want to follow any of those rules, was, praise yourself. Take the quick wins. Appreciate yourself and what you're doing. Even if you've tried something and it hasn't worked out, don't be put off by it. You'll have learnt something, if nothing. So always praise yourself, and always, I get most of my clients to write I am enough on their mirrors. And you wouldn't believe, particularly on teenage girls, the kind of change that makes. You are enough, you've always been enough, and you're going to be more than enough. Because I find that a lot of people, everything kind of stems back to, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not clever enough. And it's just not true. It's just not true. I don't know who told you that.
Yeah, so really notice the good stuff. That's really important.
Absolutely.
There'll always be good stuff to notice.
Absolutely.
So please get in touch with the Disability Foundation and book your slot, and they will see you and fit you in.
Yeah, and also give a call to the guys as well. We're thinking about putting on some kind of like information days, so kind of finding out more about hypnotherapy and maybe launching some days around anxiety or, you know, things like weight loss. So if you have got any concerns, you have got any questions about hypnotherapy, we're going to be putting on some days to give you some more information. So contact the desk, contact the guys, and we can help you out.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
No problem.
Sharon.
Thank you for having me.
Don't forget, you can listen again to Brockley News by following the links from our website at www.radiobroccoli.org. Plus, you can now tune into Brockley News Extra 5 days a week at midday for another chance to hear some of our recent interviews, plus on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Up next on Radio Broccoli, it's Bedside Bingo, your chance to win some Radio Broccoli goodies with Neil Boyd. And then at 8 p.m, it's all your requests on the Sunday Request Show with Keith Reeve. Brockley News returns at the same time next week. From me, Sophie Horrocks, good night.